It's a good thing they included those stretch breaks in between the readings, huh? So, I want to talk a little bit about why we do this instead of just showing up on Sunday morning, which is totally allowed. What is the point? What is the spiritual value of a vigil? So, a vigil, to be precise, it is not necessarily a religious thing. Normally it is. A vigil is a period of time of waiting and watching. If you are waiting and watching for something, you are keeping vigil. You know, like a watchman or a sentry being vigilant for bad guys? That's a vigil. Because it's not just waiting. All of you wait in life. We all have to. But when you're at the doctor's office, you're not keeping a vigil, all right? You're on your phone playing the delete game, which is when you're going through deleting contacts you haven't, contacted for like 3 years. That's the delete game. It's great. You don't keep a vigil when you're waiting for your appointment. One way that a lot of people keep vigil is during election night. During election night, they've voted. Some of them have voted several days before. But you better believe there's a ton of people that are glued to that TV as those votes are counted. They're watching and they're waiting for who will be the next president or whatever the election is about. I realize not every election is a presidential election, but frankly, I would count that as a vigil. When someone cares deeply about the election and they watch all night long to see who their new elected official will be, that is a vigil. This last time, I did not keep vigil. I did the anti-vigil. I happened to be in Texas at during time of election night. I was visiting friends, so obviously I was a little skittish in the first place. So I finally got into Dallas. I checked into my hotel. It was about 7 or 8 o'clock at night. I had just enough time for a late dinner. So I went a block down the street to a Middle Eastern restaurant. And they said, "Hello, sir, may we help you?" And I said, "Yes, you may. I'd like a table for one away from all TVs, radios, or people talking loudly about the election." "Right this way, sir." And I had my meal staring at a brick wall while I ate my falafel sandwich, which was delicious, by the way. I regret nothing. That was exactly how I wanted to spend the election night. But that wasn't a vigil because I wasn't watching. I was intentionally not watching. So that is one example of a vigil. There is one other place besides a church that you can commonly find people keeping vigil. The hospital. Absolutely. The hospital has more vigils than any church. Back when I was a chaplain, as part of my priestly training, I wasn't a priest yet, this is back in 2018, one unit I had was the pediatric intensive care unit, which is where all the sickest babies were, except for the neonatal babies. So basically I had the sickest, healthiest babies. Yeah. Neonatal got the sickest, sick babies. Anyway, so one day, a family comes in, and it's a mom, a dad, 2 daughters, I want to say 8 and 4 if I had to guess, and their newborn baby brother, healthy in almost all ways, somehow had a hole in his intestine. So without the miracle of modern medical technology, that would be lethal. You cannot survive that. And even after the successful surgery, your digestive system takes a long time to heal. This was very serious. This baby was in the hospital for an entire month, almost exactly to the day. So this family was in that same hospital room for an entire month. An entire month. And they made the best of it, and I cared so deeply about this family. I wanted to visit them every day. I stopped taking days off. I took 2 half days off so I could at least come by and say hello. And the girls, they're stuck in a hospital room, so obviously they're starved for entertainment. Every time they saw me, "Oh, Chaplain Justin, you want to watch Finding Nemo?" No. They put on Finding Nemo. I've seen the first 5 minutes of that movie like 30 times. So if you want to drive me crazy, play the first 5 minutes of Finding Nemo. I've never actually finished the movie, but I know the first 5 minutes really well. And the doctor was really great. It was this, I'm not going to talk about how big he was. He was a jolly doctor. I think it's politically correct for me to say that. He was a jolly doctor, but he'd come in like, "How you doing, little guy? Gotta poop. You're a baby. It's the one thing you do." And, we all tried making the best of it. And the thing is, the story that I'm trying to tell has nothing to do with anyone I've just mentioned. The real story is about the mom. Because that mom was holding vigil over that baby for a month. She spent a month of her life doing nothing but watching and praying and waiting for her baby to get better. She was on maternity leave, so she didn't have to go to work. She rested a little bit. She ate a little bit. I mean a little bit. She might have watched Finding Nemo 30 times. I don't know. But she spent the bulk of her time leaning over that crib, talking to her son, praying over her son, or just being there. And when I visited, most of the time, I would watch with her on the other side of the crib. Her dad and her daughters, her husband and her daughters didn't keep vigil quite the same way as her, but she was watching and waiting. Now, you have to understand, there wasn't anything more this woman could do. All right, the fate of this baby was out of everyone's hands. The doctors did everything they could. The nurses were taking good care of him. They were just waiting for him to heal. Her job as a parent was done in a way, not like done, but she couldn't do anything more. So if you were a cynical person with a bad attitude, you could say that there was absolutely no difference between her being there at the crib or going off by herself to Disneyland. But every single one of you knows, there's a difference. There is absolutely a difference. Think about how much love goes into waiting over someone who is sick for an entire month. Think of how much hope and faith she poured into that crib. It's awe-inspiring if you think about it seriously for even a moment. All right? And I'll have you know that baby did get better. They did leave. And I have every reason to believe he is a healthy 6-year-old now somewhere in Indiana. I don't know. The hospital was in Indiana. Call it personal opinion, if you will. I have to believe that kid is going to be one of the healthiest, psychologically, mentally, spiritually. He is going to be one of the healthiest people that's ever lived. Because even though he didn't know it because he was a baby, he is going to know for his entire life how much his mom loves him. He is going to know that when he was a baby and sick to the point of death, that's double helpless, mind you. He's a baby and he's in the hospital. When he was there, he was never alone. He was never alone because his family was right there in the same room, watching and waiting and praying for him. There is no way he is going to forget that. That is what we're doing tonight. We are watching and waiting, and I admit it's not a baby in the hospital. It's for Christ rising again. Yesterday, for those of you that joined me for Good Friday, I called yesterday Crying Day. Today is Uncertainty Day. Today is quiet. Nothing really happens on Holy Saturday. We are waiting and watching to see what God will do next. Now, I realize we all know the end of the story. Christ definitely rises from the dead on Easter Sunday. But today is the day that we watch and we wait. We wait attentively for God to be there for us. So a vigil like this one right here, is an act of love, an act of faith, and an act of hope. We are here for Christ. We are here to remind God, each other, and ourselves that we will be there for Christ during that day of uncertainty.